Trees burst into flower. That's a classic sign that spring is here.
And now scientists want to know which cherry trees you can see in gardens, parks and streets near you. Phil Lavelle is in Alnwick Gardens in Northumberland to tell us more. How much blossom have you got behind you there, Phil? A little bit.
Only a little bit at the moment, Simon, but it is getting a bit better. Morning from Alnwick Gardens. This is the largest cherry orchard in the entire country, some 350 trees here. Now, as I say, there is a little bit of blossom here. It's starting to come out, but it'll be about a week or so before this place is completely covered in white blossom. It is getting a head start, though, in the south, which is quite good for the researchers, because the Natural History Museum has launched this rather ambitious task to catalogue all of the cherry blossom in the entire country. Here's what they're doing. Take a look. The lambs are out, optimistic Brits are lighting up the barbecue, and the blossom is appearing on the trees. A true sign, if any, spring is here. And with it, an optimistic challenge. If you've got any cherry blossom in your garden, the experts want to hear from you.
Here, for example, you can see our native cherry. That is a real fantastic species for wildlife.
The Natural History Museum is carrying out a nationwide census of the trees. The idea that it'll be able to see when and where they typically flower and what that means for nature.
We are trying to encourage people to look at the nature that surrounds them, to see what is in their back garden, to get a feeling for the richness and diversity of plants and animals in the UK. And cherries is a charismatic, a fantastic species for spring. Everybody relates to it, everybody eats it in the autumn.
Here in Kent, they know a thing or two about cherries. In Lynsted, there's a whole orchard full of the trees and they're in full bloom. But apparently places like this are disappearing fast.
We have the first commercial cherry orchard that was planted by Henry VIII's gardener just a few miles down the road from here. And since then, cherry orchards came up all over this area. But in the last 50 years, most of them have been grubbed out. And this traditional style orchard is one of the few remaining in this area, which is a great shame.
They love their cherry blossom in Japan. In fact, it's considered a sign of luck. So much so that until recently, they actually had a cherry blossom forecast when they did the weather. Here, for us, it's more just a beautiful sign of spring and an occasional pastime for those who want to pick the cherries themselves. There are lots of stores import the fruit nowadays from abroad. Not that the bees seem to mind, it means that they are left undisturbed. If only this beautiful symbol that spring has arrived could last a little bit longer.
So those beautiful pictures there. Now that was Kent, obviously a few hundred miles from where we are this morning, which shows a real disparity really, because depending on where you live depends on where the cherry blossom and when the cherry blossom grows. For example, it's always a little bit warmer in the south than it is in the north traditionally. So that means that the cherry blossom will grow maybe a week or two early, but it will follow, it will gradually move up, and it will eventually blossom here. As I say, it'll be about a week or so before this place is completely covered like it was there in Kent. So let's find out a bit more from Trevor Jones, who's the head gardener here at Alnwick Gardens. So Trevor, just tell us first of all, how do you identify cherry blossom? Because there are various different varieties, aren't there?
There's certainly different colours. Many people think that cherry blossom's just pink, but here at Alnwick we have white cherry blossom from the trees which are Prunus taihaku, the great white Japanese cherry.
Just to confuse things, pink blossom can also be apple blossom as well, can't it?
It can, yes, yes.
And tell us, it's not just pretty, it also plays quite a key role for the environment, doesn't it?
That's correct. We have lots of bees, butterflies, insects, all pollinating the cherry blossom. And obviously this is very important, especially for commercial orchards.
And tell us a little bit, you have a cherry festival here, Cherry Blossom Festival. Tell us about this.
The Cherry Blossom Festival was actually last weekend, where we were hoping all the cherry trees would be out, but because of the weather, they were slightly behind schedule. But we still had our Cherry Blossom Festival with lots of Japanese dancers, music, silk banners flying in the garden, and great Japanese kites, as well as bonsai plants, which were on exhibition here.
It's interesting because in Japan it's very much a cultural thing. They absolutely love their blossom. How do you find that people here tend to associate it?
They've certainly got on board, and the community locally come and enjoy the cherry blossom and all the festivals that are attached with it.
Great, brilliant, Trevor. Thank you very much. Well, as I say,